18 years ago, I joined Magic Garden, and this is where I first came into contact with Reggio ideas. And when I walked into Magic Garden and saw the amazing environment already in place here, it was a deep resonance with everything that I'd been in contact with in the 20 years before that, and the wonderful teachers that I'd been in contact with who were passionate about environments that communicated to children ways that they could be creative and expressive and innovative. And so began my journey connecting with Reggio ideas in 2004. It's the way this approach allows you to step out of old paradigms of planning that maybe restricts what you are expecting of children. So aligning your thinking with what comes from Reggio Emilia is a freeing up of the potential that children have to be creative and expressive and thinkers. So it's an extraordinarily freeing prospect for teachers. We are preparing, we're thinking ahead of what might unfold, but we can be waiting in awe and wonder about just how the children are going to take an idea that we might propose to them, or how they will be involved in an invitation of materials that we'll present for them. So it's Malaguzzi talks about this dance between uncertainty and chaos and the amazingness that unfolds and the experiences of children, and you don't get stayed in your thinking. So it's very heartening and enlightening and joyous way of teaching, I think. The other thing that really touches you is the deep ethical foundation that is with everything to do with Reggio ideas. They've thought about everything. Nothing is, while they might embrace uncertainty, there's nothing not considered. There's such a depth and the breadth to their connections about what they're doing and why. And I think that's I think unusual practice, I think, in the world today, particularly for young children, is just this huge valuing about what is possible for young children. They're thinking about big ideas, like sustainability and democracy and what it means to be fully human. So it's not about trite everyday things. These are deep, meaningful things for humanity as a whole. And I just find those things are extraordinarily empowering for teachers. Just when you think you've got an inkling about how it might come to practice, you'll talk with another visitor from Reggio, and it just explodes your thinking all over again. So I think it's a perpetual unfolding, like the onions. You just never get to the bottom layer of it. I think the first thing to understand is it's not about recreating what you see from Reggio Emilia. It's understanding that context is unique for them and their part of the world, for when they were coming out of World War II and they wanted something special for their children, something different. So their context is unique for them. What our job is when we come into connection with these ideas is to interpret them for our context, unpack them for what is real in our Southern Hemisphere, New Zealand, and what do we want to be reimagining for the way we work with children in our own context. So that's the first point to think. The next point of thing that we tackled first of all was this idea of what is our image of children. And when we do that as a team of teachers, it means that you're unpacking a little bit about what you're valuing, the ways of being that we value each of our individually, and then what are we going to value together. I think that's a really important practice to do when you're first thinking about Reggio ideas. And then the curriculum comes to be not about what are you going to teach, as in content knowledge, it comes about with ways we're going to live into those values that we decided are important to each other, and ways that we're going to think alongside each other, teachers and teachers, and teachers and children, children and children. Then, of course, there's the idea about what's the environment going to look like as we're living and learning alongside young children. So that environment will give clues to the culture that you're trying to foster with children. What are the intentions for the program? And there'll be some rich integrity with the learning that's going to happen and unfold. So that means really thinking about what resources and materials you're presenting for children, and along the way you're gathering things from grandma's cupboard, from somebody that's moving house. Things are donated to the program that bring a rich history of past, present, and there'll be future connections that happen with those beautiful objects. And so that brings a whole different energy to the engagement of children and teachers when you know that somebody has cared enough to give that to the program, and we're going to look after it, and other people are going to enjoy that after we've left the room. It's a gathering of resources that is completely unique, because most of it is not out of a catalogue. It is things that have been gathered in real objects that people have used, and that have some intrigue. And it might be gadgets that you've collected that are no longer used in the kitchen, but they'll have some turning, twisting, opening, shutting. There's some engagement that children can work out. What does this thing do? How is it being used? How could I tell my story with it? Okay, so then after you've thought about the environment, it's thinking about what are the teachers' role in that environment, because it's quite different from the old paradigms of teaching, where you thought long and hard about what activities you were going to present for children, and you had to have a different activity on each table for the morning session or the afternoon session, and you didn't repeat the same activity again because children would get bored. This different way of preparing the environment is quite challenging for teachers to think about, well, now what do I do when I can walk into the room and feel that I'm completely relaxed, because I know that the environment has got huge integrity and potential for things to unfold for children. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be awesome. And so this change of role for the teacher can be a bit confronting for many folks. And you have to think then of yourself as ready to listen to what the materials might have to say, what the children might have to say, what parents might be talking about with their children in their daily lives. So there's funds of knowledge that come into the room and engage with the environment is different each day. So the teacher needs to be alert to what are the possibilities here, what is the meaning that's unfolding in front of you. So this active listening without an agenda, too much of your own self, is quite a different way of being with young children. Provocations or invitations to engage with materials have life beyond just one session, and each time a child can come back and engage with something again and again and again, the layering of the knowledge then produces some increasing complexity for skills and knowledge as children come back with different children alongside them. There's so much more that becomes experiential rather than just an activity that's here one moment and gone the next. Yeah. So then the challenge becomes, how do you document what children are doing and what they're thinking? So I think as I've talked to many other teachers in connection with Reggio Ideas, it's one of the last pieces of puzzle that you really get a good handle on, this idea of pedagogical documentation and making visible to the wider world how capable and competent our children are, and how rich they are already in thinking and innovative ideas, and bring things to their connections with objects that we as adults have lost that innocent intrigue and surprise that children find in their connections. So it's being a researcher, thinking in every moment that I wonder what they're thinking. I wonder what's happening here. What does this really mean? That it changes the energy about the teacher's engagement alongside young children. We're a companion. There's this term co-constructing, but I like the term companion. We're thinking and making sense of this together. What does this mean in this moment? What story is this child trying to tell me? Or what message is this material? What's intrigued this child about this object? Is it something they're familiar with, not familiar with? So this idea of thinking ourselves as a researcher, that we don't know all the answers yet, and how can I talk about it with someone else to make more sense of it? Yeah, so it's a really, really cool way of changing our thinking as we're connecting with young children. Over the last 18 years, we've been lucky to have evolved that blank canvas into what it is today, just carefully curating the resources and really being mindful about aesthetics and children being capable and competent to live and learn around beautiful things, and that this is home, that we're dedicated to the long-term full-time care of young children that have to be out of home for 30 or more hours a week. So it needs to be a very special, calm, homey, harmonious environment. And we want stable teachers there with those long-term full-time children. So that's really been the culture that we've fostered over the years, that we are together for long periods of time, so our ways of being can be cohesive and in step with and coherent with each other. For the first 5 years, there was a lot of trial and error about, did we have the zones of the furniture and what was happening in the room situated really well. And after that toing and froing, then we realised, no, don't change too much of that now. It's working really well. A lot of the things that we were thinking about as team was being highly conscious that we're a big group size of 42 and 3-year-olds in the room that I'm working in, and that required us to think very carefully about the rhythms of the day and the expectations we had of toddlers living alongside each other in such a big group. So a lot of the thinking was about what type of engagement do we want from these little ones. We wanted focused, long periods of engagement with them. So that meant that we didn't want to be interrupting them too frequently, that it was about inviting them to come for some morning tea that would roll on for 30 or 40 minutes, that there would be opportunities for children to join and have morning tea, that invitations for a nappy change were considered and not interrupting somebody in the middle of their painting. So a lot of our thinking, aside from what the environment was queuing up, was actually about how were the teachers engaging with children. What was coming out of our mouths needed to be really authentic when we're talking with children, because they'll pick you up on phony in just a moment. So our ways of communicating with the children, with a team of 8 teachers, needed to be very cohesive, so we couldn't be played off against each other. So those sorts of aspects were high on the agenda of the thinking of the team right from the get-go. being authentic teachers, engaging with the children in a very calm, pragmatic way that said, I know you've got a clever plan. Where are you going to unfold that plan? Who are you going to play with? And wow, look at those ideas that you've come across there. Let's take a photograph. So talking from a very positive aspect with the children, coaching the children in what we did want them to do, ways we did want them to manage themselves, and then having quite clear boundaries about that's gone too tricky. I can't let you carry on doing that. We need a new plan. So I think that fabric of ways of being, ways of talking with children is just as important as what the children might be tinkering and pottering with. One of the big challenges we had early on was just the logistics of teaching with a big group of children of 2 and 3. Back in 2004, it was almost unheard of to have a group size of 40 2 and 3-year-olds together. So we were grappling with a lot of just the logistics about how to be the teachers we wanted to be with that volume of children. So things we came to realise really quickly is we had to change how we organised the teachers to have the time and space for us as teachers as much as we wanted time and space for the children. The pace of our lives was just too much, and we were burning out some really good teachers. So by changing to a 2-weekly rotation amongst the duties that are around the centre, we were able to just diffuse a lot of tension, change the space, and then we realised if we embraced a housekeeper as well as the teachers, then we could free up a lot of the time teachers were involved in cleaning up for meals or changing nappies, that we could focus them back on what they were really good at, is engaging with the children in their play. So those were 2 key things that we changed early on in the life of the centre that made a huge difference. Organising our teachers into 2 little teams of 3 that were able to talk together in the space about what was going on there in real time with 2 children. So the offerings back to the children could be decided on and negotiated on in a lot more authentic way. That's created a lot of wonderful depth for the program as well. So it was just a lot of logistics about how team works really well together and how to get good systems in place that allowed that authentic collaboration of teachers. Certainly is an environment that's on the edge. It's edgy. It has as much complexity as it does have things that are familiar and would be more considered usual for toddlers to play with. So we are really conscious that there's a gentle initiation into this environment, and it comes with key teachers of children from the infants and toddlers bringing their newbies into the over 2s room, and then setting up with key teachers on that side as well. So the key teachers phase out from the younger room, and our key teachers step in and are modelling for the children just the expectations around how to be in encountering what they're seeing in that room, and passing over the boundaries about how much what can go in the mouth. That toys are for playing, food goes in our mouth. So it's just the little phrases, to your chin but don't let it in. Ways of being gentle and reverent with the materials. Finding ways for our older children in the room to come alongside and connect with the younger ones, and use the tuatana a kind of Tainer role modelling there about the rules and boundaries that there are in the room. So there's lots of ways that we just gently, over about 6 weeks of time, visits every day or every other day for an hour or so, and then it gets a little bit longer, that the children become familiar with the room in a way that's not too confronting for them. The priorities for the room are as they've always been, about a calm, harmonious, peaceful classroom, and teachers doing whatever it takes to ensure that the life is like that. And so we're really attuned to the atmosphere and the sound of the room. And when the sound is rising a little bit and you can hear that children are not focused and engaged, then what do they need from us right now? It might be a little redirection, or it might be some spontaneous group time that just changes the dynamic a little bit. So children are breathing in and breathing out, and that we are holding the reins about how things are going, but giving the children their heads about what they are planning and doing, so that we're all the time, is it going well? Is the tone of the room following the intentions that we might have of it? And if things have gone too chaotic, then and it's got away on the children, then it's the teacher's job to bring that back down a little bit. Yeah. So we're always, aside from curating the resources and the materials, we're looking for this emotional factor and that's going on in the room, about resilience, about being kind and fair and tolerant. So the ideas about social competence and social justice are the glue that holds the other exploration and inquiry together, and the deeper thinking about ways children are expressing themselves for the visual arts and performing arts and literacy and numeracy. So it needs the three pillars of our program to be held in balance by teachers that have got the reins, that have got the big picture about how things are going. I think over time it has been because the teaching team has been together for a long period of time. So out of a team of 8 teachers, there's probably 5 of us who have been there 12 to 18 years. So that is a huge depth of intellectual property about how the room works. And as new team members have joined us over time, you are able to do that transfer of knowledge and skill about how to manage the space and manage the children. So it's almost like a mind meld over time, and the role modelling and the conveying to teachers that they are sharing the leadership of the room. So yes, it requires somebody with a steady hand at the team lead that says, this is the vision that we have. It's an ever-expanding vision. These are the strategies that have worked well with us over time, but who are the children with us right now? Do they need us to bring in some new strategies or to rethink old ways of what might have worked well back then, but it's not with the new generations of children that we have in front of us? So we're all the time thinking about who are the children. It comes, I think, the transfer of how to manage the room comes with constant talking and role modelling and unpacking. And that's the time and space that we've bought for ourselves by creating such an amazing environment, that we do have time to step back and have a little chat with each other when things might have gone a bit pear-shaped about, could we have done something differently there, or do we need to try something different as we head through the morning? I think something we think about really strongly is when a new position arises anywhere in the centre, is about taking time with folks who want to come and join us to make sure we're on the same wavelength that they are going to buy into the vision of this educational project that we're trying to unfold here. It's quite different, it's quite unique, and it does require passion and energy and someone that's going to see themselves growing over time, that it's not just a place that you're going to join for 6 months and then find something different. That's very much about vocation. You're teaching because this is the thing you've been called to do. So I think when you find people of like mind like that, then creating team dynamics that are positive and empowering for adults as much as they are for children, that's the secret to it. And imparting this idea that there's room for everyone to express their own flair. That the curriculum is not just a top-down, this is what we're going to do, that there's room for ideas to be brainstormed and throwing back to people to go and say, right, here's a ballpark of what we might intend, but you bring it to life in the arts this fortnight, or you bring it to life outside for the next 2 weeks as lead out there. So there's a lot of scope for people to grow into their own passions and directions and talents. Yeah, I think it's definitely something we talk about in our mentoring as the team leads have time to connect with each teacher, is really understanding each other. We all go through periods of time when we struggle, and sometimes we think, oh, it's just easier to leave and find somewhere new to work. But whatever tensions or tricky things that we encounter in our work together, it's often, by the time we've worked through that, you come out the other side with a new sense of togetherness. And teaching early childhood is such a demanding role. Reggio talks about this idea of solidarity together. It doesn't always look pretty, but the intentions we have together about the educational project we're trying to advance and unfold mean we've got, like you call this, the synergy. We're here for a common purpose, creating a grander plan from something that we could envisage on our own. And so it's this leadership really important, but this understanding of each other. We're human beings, and how are we wanting to engage with young children, and what is our vision for young children? I think when you step out of a me and a you into a us, we're here together to create something amazing, then that sort of energy creates something special.